All right, the recount continues tonight in Florida, but first, according to new reports, Senator Lindsey Graham may be, in fact, the next chair of the Judiciary Committee as Senator Grassley weighs his departure, increasing the chances of a full investigation into the FBI, their handling of the Clinton email probe. And joining us now with more reaction, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, good to see you. Before we get to that, I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on the recount. And all of a sudden, you know, 80,000 here, 15,000 here. They just keep showing up.
Well, if Rick Scott had not weighed in the way he did, and if President Trump had not spoken up, I think they would have stole this thing from us. 90-something thousand votes counted after the polls closed. We stopped the bleeding. He has a lead now that can't be overcome, in my view, by a recount. So I think Rick Scott's going to win this, and I think mathematically Nelson's eliminated. But thank God that President Trump and Rick Scott took this seriously.
Yeah. Senator, we have a lot of important judicial appointments. We had a threat by Jeff Flake tonight about protecting Mueller. And I know you said that's fine, but the president said he has no intention of firing Mueller. It looks like some agreement has been made by the reports I read between the president's lawyers and the special counsel, written answers. That would mean this is now coming to an end, at least in my mind.
Well, this is a manufactured problem. President Trump is not going to fire Mueller. Mueller is going to be allowed to do his job, and we need conservative judges on the bench, as many as we can, as often as we can get them. I don't know what Senator Grassley is going to do. He's been a great chairman of the committee. If I'm chairman next year, we're going to do judges, and more judges. And at the end of the day, I am convinced that Mr. Mueller will be allowed to do his job. I've seen not one scintilla evidence of collusion. The obstruction of justice thing never made any sense to me. You can fire somebody who works as a political appointment. The FBI director could be fired for almost any reason, and the Democrats wanted Comey fired. So I feel good about everything right now.
In many ways, I think you had the key moment in the Kavanaugh hearings when you spoke up. It was a powerful moment and an important one in terms of what was going on with Justice now Kavanaugh. And one of the people that made the most outrageous claims was Michael Avenatti. He's facing serious charges tonight. But that story, we now know, it changed with the client that he was representing. It changed pretty dramatically in terms of what she said. He made these accusations, and as I've been playing, and I'm not saying this in any way. I believe in due process and the presumption of innocence, especially at serious charges. It's served this country so well, and to not be consistent would make me a hypocrite. I am consistent. But I wondered if you had thoughts about this tonight.
Well, number one, Ms. Swetnick's affidavit on its face just made no sense. Who would repeatedly go to parties where women are being drugged and raped and not say anything about it and keep putting yourself at risk? So the claim by Ms. Swetnick that was authored by Mr. Avenatti actually helped us because it was so over the top. Now, he's being charged. Seems like a credible allegation, but he's entitled to the presumption of innocence, and I will give him that due. I'm not out to get Mr. Avenatti by turning the legal system upside down.
Whatever's fair, right, just, moral.
Exactly.
Let's stay with that. You said that you were ready, perhaps, and to reopen the Hillary email investigation. Now, when we know the Democrats in the House, they've been talking about 100 different investigations. This is what is important to me. And people have said, well, why do you talk about Clinton? Because do we have a dual justice system or equal justice under the law, equal application of our laws? That would mean an exoneration before an investigation in the case of Hillary Clinton. That would mean, if we're going to talk about Russia and Russia influence, that has to go to the dossier, bought and paid for, funneled money through a law firm, into a op research group, to a foreign national, debunk lies that the author wouldn't even himself stand by when pressed in an interrogatory in Great Britain. Then, of course, the leaking of such information to influence the 2016 elections, lies about Donald Trump paid for from Russia. And then, of course, being used to appoint a special counsel. Is all of that on the table for you?
You know, to my Democratic friends, if you want to look backward, we're all going to look backward. I want to know why the FBI reached to the conclusion, along with the Department of Justice, that Hillary Clinton didn't commit a crime. Was it because of political bias? If you really wanted to stop Trump, how in the world could you indict her? Was the reason she wasn't indicted is because they wanted to make sure that they stopped Trump, and how can you stop him if you indict her? Did the Department of Justice and the FBI use a document paid for by the Democratic Party, researched by a foreign agent, to get a warrant against an American citizen that was inappropriate, potentially unlawful? We need a special counsel to look at all this, but I intend to look at it. I'm going to look at it. If you're going to keep plowing everything up at 2016, count me in. If you want to look forward, I'll look forward. If you want to look back, we're going to all look back to everything and everybody, not just Trump.
Let me ask you this. And, I forgot the fraud on the FISA court, because that was
That's the fraud on the
Grassley-Graham
FISA
memo.
court.
The bulk of your quote, the bulk of information came from the phony, unverified, uncorroborated dossier that mostly has been debunked. You know, there was a proposal by the White House today about prison reform. I had the opportunity. We all saw the video of Alice Marie Johnson, and when one offense, it was serious, 22 years in jail, raced out to the arms of her family. It was beyond a touching moment, and said, "Thank you, America, for giving me a second chance. I'll not let you down," when the president pardoned her. And I look at prison reform. We've got 2 million people in jail. In a 5-year period, a 77% recidivism rate. I want to find every Alice Marie Johnson in America, and I'd love the president to pardon one such person, 10 people a day, if we can do that, because I think we do need real reform. There is unfairness in the system.
Yes. Wouldn't it be ironic if it was Donald Trump who fixed the problems created by the 3 strikes you're out rule passed by Bill Clinton? Wouldn't it be ironic it was Donald Trump and the Republican Congress working with Democrats that allowed just thousands of African American and Hispanic males a second chance for nonviolent offenses and create bed space for truly
punishment's not
violent
working.
people?
If you have a 77% recidivism rate, locking you up in a place with bad people, and you're not helping or advancing and changing hearts and minds, it makes sense to me. But Senator, we'll follow that more. I think there's a lot of potential there. Imagine the president transforming the power of the pardon for every Alice Marie Johnson who I met, and is an amazing woman. I think it would be great for the country.
Getting minorities out of jail, giving them a second chance, improving the economy for African American, Hispanic families is a very big deal.
Senator, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.